Hey guys, another week and another Reds minor league talk that's actually coming out on time. So it looks like I'm doing things a little bit better. Um, Spring training started up yesterday for pitchers and catchers. Well, I guess it started up 2 days ago, but yesterday was the first day that they actually had team workouts. Everybody passed their physical the day before except for Jeff Manship. It wasn't specified why he failed his physical, but he did, and the Reds have voided his contract, so he is no longer with the organization. Now, there's always a chance they could re-sign him to a lesser deal. We'll have to see, but I guess for right now, uh, he's not going to be in the organization for 2018. Now, what the Reds did do today, or well, I guess technically it's not official yet, but um, they have apparently come to an agreement to sign utility infielder Cliff Pennington. And he's been in the major leagues for the last 10 years or so. He's played a little bit of everywhere, mostly infield, but he's got very, very limited time in the outfield. Uh, Most of his time in the infield has come at shortstop and second base. He's played a little bit of third base as well. Obviously, at that point, you'd think he could play first base too, but that's probably not going to happen. But this is a minor league deal. Um, I think that the biggest thing for me in this whole thing is that he adds somebody to the depth chart that can play shortstop. Now, if he makes the major league roster, he does get $1.5 million. So you have to kind of factor that in as to whether or not, depending on his spring training, of course, the Reds are going to pick him up and add him to the 25-man roster as the backup shortstop. Maybe they don't like what they see and they'll try and send him to AAA. But he'll be 34 this year. He may not be willing to take a role in AAA if he doesn't make the team. And from his standpoint, I get that. I'm not sure that I'd be willing to go play in AAA either at that point of my career. But from the Reds standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. If you've been following anything I've been talking about all off season, it's that the Reds need to add a legitimate backup shortstop to their organization, whether that's somebody on a minor league deal like this or somebody at the major league level. Because outside of Jose Peraza before today, it did not seem that they had any confidence in anyone else playing shortstop on a day-to-day basis. So they may still need to find somebody if they don't feel that Pennington is worthy of a 25-man roster spot and he's not willing to go to Louisville. But that's something you can worry about 6 weeks from now when other teams start making their roster moves, and maybe they'll designate someone for an assignment and the Reds can pick somebody up on waivers if they aren't confident that Pennington can be that guy. But I like the move. I think it's a smart move from the organizational standpoint. Um, you know, he's not going to hit much, but I don't think they're going to be relying on him to hit much, especially at the major league level. He'll only be playing if something happens to Jose Peraza and he can't play for weeks at a time. I think that if something were to happen and Jose Peraza needed a day off, what does it matter if somebody steps in at shortstop? It doesn't. It's going to be one of those situations where you're really only going to be concerned about that if he's stepping in for, say, 60 straight at bats or something like that. And who knows? Maybe by mid-season, the Reds will have a different option. Right now, I mean, as I wrote on the site in the State of the Farm shortstop article earlier this week, things don't look good in full season ball. They did not have a single shortstop between Dayton and Cincinnati who had an OPS over 600 at the shortstop position. That's incredibly depressing when you think about it. I mean, that's five guys I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Zach Vinci did OPS over 600 last season in Louisville, but he's not with the organization anymore. So everybody that's returning, nobody was over a 600 OPS, and that's just, for the entire organization in full season ball, that's not good. So, maybe a guy like Carlton Dahl can come back from his injury. He's generally been well regarded as a prospect, but he's coming off a shoulder surgery, so you don't really know how he's going to rebound from that right away. Maybe by midseason he'll look back at old form. Not much power there, but can hit for some average. He makes contact. He definitely could play shortstop before he got hurt. So, maybe he'll be an option in the second half. Who knows? But I do like the move because it does add something that I felt the organization was lacking, especially in the first half of the season. Now, I kind of reached out on Twitter for some questions, but something actually popped up in my feed that I've been thinking about for a while now, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. I've always said that the arbitration process in baseball is not good. Like, if I'm a team, I don't ever want to go to arbitration, because in an arbitration hearing, you have to argue why your player isn't worth the amount of money that they think they're worth. And, you know, realistically, no matter how you approach it, you're kind of telling the player they're not as good as they think they are. And I understand that the players also understand the process and that it's kind of all part of the deal, but you still have to say, hey, you know, you're not as good as you think because of X, Y, and Z. And you usually don't see players talk out about that, but I mean, we're all humans. We don't like being told, you know, negative things about ourselves. Now, earlier today, Marcus Stroman, starting pitcher, you know, he lost his arbitration case, and he went to Twitter, and I'm going to read this directly from his Twitter feed. Now, he has since deleted this tweet, but this is what he said afterwards. Lost arbitration. It is what it is. Looking forward to going out and dealing again. The negative things that were said against me by my own team will never leave my mind. I'm thick-skinned, so it will only fuel the fire. Can't wait for this year. Now, I mean, clearly it bothered him what the team said in there. You know, he says that he's thick-skinned and, you know, it's just going to fuel his fire. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, maybe signing an extension, or when he hits free agency and the team approaches him like, hey, you know, we'd like to have you back, he's still going to be thinking about this. You know, that, hey, remember when we were separated by, I mean, what was the difference here? Yeah, $400,000. Like, they couldn't come to an agreement over $400,000. And, you know, now he's got hard feelings against the front office because they had to go in there and say, hey, you're not as good as you think you are. And, I mean, I don't know exactly what they said, but they clearly presented a case that told him that, or he wouldn't feel this way. So I don't know. It's not a situation that I like too much. If I were a team, I'd do everything I could to avoid such a situation, especially in a small situation like this where it's $400,000. Like, you guys really couldn't just split the difference down the middle? I mean, maybe they tried and he said no, and I get it. But $400,000 for a Major League Baseball team, I mean, that's nothing. And I know that it's not, you know, you can use that money for something else. You know, maybe that's a good international signing. So I mean, I shouldn't say it's not anything. Like, it's useful money, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're, you know, it costs you $200 million to run your organization, is it really that? I mean, what is that? Half a percent? No, that's 0.25 of 1% of your entire budget. I mean, I just don't see it being worth it in that scenario. It just doesn't make sense to me that you would go into that situation and, you know, you leave one of your better players feeling this way about your organization. So I don't know. I just didn't like it. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because it's something I always think about, and I've never actually kind of put all of the thoughts out there. And it popped up today, so I thought I'd throw it in there. I mean, it's technically not minor league related, but you're baseball fans, or you wouldn't be following the minor leagues to begin with, so it kind of fits in. Now, as far as the reaching out for, you know, different topic ideas today, because, you know, there's not a lot going on yet in spring training. I reached out to see if anybody had any, you know, quick questions or anything. Let me scroll down here real quick and see. What do we have? Okay, so Todd Roberts asked, you know, should the Reds think about drafting Joey Votto's replacement soon? You know, Joey Votto is going to be 35 years old this year. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he's 35 now, but he'll be 35 pretty much for the whole season coming up. And so, you know, that's not exactly a spring chicken. At the same time, Joey Votto's under contract for, what, like 5 or 6 more years. So you kind of do want to start looking down the road. But I'm not sure that I'd go aggressively looking after a first baseman right now. I mean, if the guy is there for the taking and he's the best guy on your board, yeah, go ahead and take him. But I wouldn't make it a priority at this point. Generally speaking, first base is the easiest position to fill on the field because defensively, every other position guy can go play first base, in theory, at least. But I think that with the contract situation you've got with Joey Votto, and I mean, realistically, if you draft a college first baseman, he's going to be ready. I mean, if he's ever going to be ready. He's going to be ready before Joey Votto's ready to walk away anyways. So now you're kind of looking at a high school guy who, you know, he's going to be 18 years old. And, you know, maybe developmentally he's 5 years away. You know, he'll get there when he's 23 years old. Yeah, I mean, if that guy's sitting there in the third round for you, fourth round, and you like him, go for it. But I'm not going to try and push that if, let's say, you're drafting fifth overall in the second round this year, like the Reds are. I'm not going to overdraft some high school kid that I kind of like, but I'm not entirely sold on just because I do have a need to replace Joey Votto in 5 or 6 years. I'm a big fan of drafting the best player available, assuming that it also fits in your budget. Now with the pool allotments that Major League Baseball assigns to teams, you have to always factor that in. You can't just always take the best player available, or you'll run out of money by the fifth round and you can't sign anybody. So that doesn't work. But assuming that the player is asking for reasonable money and they're your best player available, I'm always on that plan to draft that way for at least the first 5 or 6 rounds. Once you get into that seventh round and on, the odds of finding major leaguers, they're not good. I mean, they're realistically not good beyond the second round, but after the sixth, seventh round, that's when you kind of start wanting to look in and filling organizational needs. Let's say you're short on shortstops, or you're short on catchers. At that point, maybe you go, okay, well, we need to draft a catcher in the next couple of rounds. Who's a guy that we could plug into Dayton next year, or who's a guy who can go to Billings and lead our young pitching staff, things like that. Those are kind of the way that you quote unquote draft for need, but you do that later on in the draft when there's not as much risk of passing up a future big league contributor. And that's not to say that guys can't be big league contributors drafted after the sixth or seventh round, but it's just the odds are much less likely for them to be there like that. So that's kind of my take on that one. And then let's see, Chris asked about Cliff Pennington, which I kind of got to already. What else do we got? I know there was another one in here that I liked, and people have been blowing up my Twitter feed about something else that I said today, and so I'm struggling to find it. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I already answered that one on Twitter, but somebody asked if Dilson Herrera needed to stick on the big league roster this year, and yes, he does. He's out of options, so if he's gonna, well, I mean, they could designate him for assignment at the end of spring training and try and sneak him through waivers if they feel he's not capable, but I just don't see that one happening. I think that one, unless he just looks terrible this spring, somebody would claim him given his pedigree, but two, I don't think the Reds would DFA him just because of what they've got invested in him. I mean, he was the main piece back in the Jay Bruce trade. And realistically, when he's been healthy, he's always hit well. So I think that they would give him time to show a little bit more than, 4 or 5 weeks in spring training if something doesn't quite look right. Plus, he's coming off of surgery, so, maybe they'll give him, I mean, if he does look that bad, he just may not be, 100% yet. So you may be able to DL him and send him to Louisville for a couple of weeks. So, I don't know. I can't see them DFAing him out of spring training, but I've been wrong before. I'm sure you guys have seen when that happens. So, okay, here we go. This isn't technically minor league related either, but Michael Parker wanted to know my win-loss predictions for the Reds this year. That's really a tough one. I think that if the Reds get relatively normal amount of starting pitching health, which means not losing 60% of the rotation for half a year or more, I think that they could probably, go 500. I don't think that 500 is an unrealistic expectation if they, have just a regular amount of health. Obviously, you're not going to go through the entire year, getting all 5 starters to go, 33 starts. That doesn't happen. It's not going to happen again this year. But if they can get 3 guys to give you 30 starts and 2 guys to give you 20, and you get, fill-ins for the other 20 or so that you'll need, from Robert Stevenson, Sal Romano, Amir Garrett, Tyler Malley, whoever doesn't make that rotation at the end there, I think that, 500 is not an unrealistic expectation. If things go the way they've gone the past couple of years and the starting pitching can't stay healthy, then, we might be looking at another 90-loss season. The offense is fine. I do think it's going to take a step backwards this year just because you're not going to replace what Zach Cozart gave you last year at shortstop. He was just on a different level last year than he's ever been in any sort of realistic expectations for anybody who's going to fill in at shortstop for the Reds. So you're going to take a big step down that way. It's second base. Scooter Gennett had easily the best year of his career. I don't think it's realistic to expect him to repeat that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think that it's likely that you'll get another 875 OPS out of your second base this year. So you'll probably take a little bit of a step backwards there too. But I still think that overall your offense is going to be fine. You know, getting more Jesse Winker, hopefully. Getting some Nick Senzel in the second half, hopefully. I mean, that's gonna make up some of those differences. So while I do think that you're going to take a little bit of a step backwards, it's probably not going to be a big one. It's just going to come down to pitching. And it seems with the Reds, that's always what it comes down to. You know, they've got the arms. They do have enough arms. But if they can't all stay healthy, then you're kind of pushing the limits. So, I mean, the Reds are going to need some of the young pitching to step up. But if Homer Bailey's healthy and he can just avoid... I mean, he had like 3 starts last year that just absolutely destroyed his ERA. I think they accounted for something like 24 runs that he gave up in those 3 starts. I mean, they weren't good. The rest of his time, he was fine. And, you know, you're going to see that every so often out of non-top-of-the-rotation guys. They're going to have clunker starts in the season. But if Homer Bailey's... I don't think he's going to get back to what he once was. But if he's just a league average pitcher, that's a huge step forward for the Reds. You know, they got nothing from DeSclafani and Finnegan last year. I mean, well, I guess Finnegan made, 3 starts last April. If you can get 20 starts out of each of those guys, too, again, that's another huge step forward. So, if they can be healthy, I think that there's a chance that the team could, you know, be 500 on the All-Star break, and then maybe you can make a trade. You know, acquire that guy that can maybe push you a little bit closer to the wild card. I wouldn't bet much money on the Reds competing for the wild card this year, but if you squint hard enough, you can see where it could happen if things start to go right for the pitching staff. But if I had to lay down an over/under, I'd put it at 75 or 76 wins because you just can't count on the pitching health. But I also think that you probably shouldn't count that, you know, they're going to lose 60% of the rotation before April 15th gets here again. So I'll call it 75, 76 wins. But I think that it could go decently far in either direction depending on how the health plays out. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, they lost 90 games again. But it wouldn't surprise me if they won, you know, 82 or 83 either. So that's my take. But yeah, so I think that's about it for this week, guys. So thanks for tuning in. If you liked what you saw, you're not subscribed yet to the channel, you can hit the little subscribe button there, and it'll, you know, YouTube will send you a notification when I upload a new video. I leave for spring training in 1 month and 1 day, so we're getting there. I'm getting excited. I'm really, well, I'm not looking forward to the drive, but I'm really looking forward to actually getting out there and seeing baseball for the first time since, well, I guess September. That was the last time I was at a game, and I can't wait. You know, some of the minor league guys, they're already in camp. Nick Senzel's been out in Arizona since last month, so I'm looking forward to it. So I'll be there in 4 weeks. I'll start getting, you know, videos up the first day that I'm there. But until then, it'll probably just be more of me sitting in front of the camera and talking. Sorry about that. There's not much I can do. I can't get to Arizona any sooner than that. I already booked my hotel. I can't afford to book another one a little bit earlier. So until next week, guys, thanks for watching. See ya.